Whatever little things in your life that you do have control over, do you take care of those little things? And if you don't take care of the little things, then of course you're not ready for the big things. So often people who are like the most loud in terms of their protesting and so loud in terms of their activism are usually the people who have the messiest personal lives. Their own personal lives are complete messes, man. They're dissatisfied with it. And so in that case, what's the thing that makes the most sense to them? Well, why is my life so tragic? Why is my life such a mess? Well, I can't blame myself because I wasn't even trying anyways. I can't blame myself. So the best thing to do psychologically, I think, is to blame everybody else around me. And so then we go out and we want the whole world to change. We want the world to change the language it uses. We want the world to change how it approaches us. We want the world to make a whole bunch of exceptions so the world can fit around us. But again, it goes back to that question, what have you done, though, to deserve such consideration? But if you're a person who can stand on your own, then you're a really dangerous person because you don't need the approval of others. If you're going to belong to any group, no matter what group it is, you're going to have to compromise some things about yourself. But the person who can stand on their own as an individual without the need for support, that's a dangerous person because you don't need the support of others. That means you don't have to compromise yourself. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. You don't have to fake it until you hopefully make it. You just are. I guess we don't think about our failures oftentimes. We kind of feel our own failures oftentimes, which are two very different things. We like to dwell on how badly somebody else messed up, how badly somebody else failed. But our own failures, man, we're quick to dismiss them, or even to say like one of the biggest lies we can tell ourselves, man, I didn't care anyway, or I don't care. Yeah, that's not the it to which we're referring. What is at the base of that? Why is there a lack of care? It's like you put yourself into we'll get right to it. You put yourself into a class, for example, you show up for school, and then we fail. And our answer is, I didn't care anyway. Then why did you show up? Why did you go through the motions? Why did you wake up early every morning? Why did you come in? Why did you sit down? Why did you have your stuff out? Or why did you not? Well, just because they make me. Okay, but you still failed. And you still went through the motions as though. And we'll be real quick to dismiss that on our own part. And then surprise, surprise, we feel insecure, and you have a good reason to feel insecure because, and I just mean this in the best possible way to examine ourselves, because what have you accomplished in your life? And actually accomplished. What have you done such that you would have any reason to be secure? Or have any reason to be confident? And there are two ways of applying that. We can apply it as a sledgehammer on somebody and say to them, well, what have you done? Why would you possibly, or you ask a person, well, what have you done? Why would you feel accomplished? Why would you be confident? And we're going to find that oftentimes people don't have a real confidence. It's bravado, man. It's fake. It's pretend. I know you've heard it before. You get this advice sometimes, and I can tell you it's some of the worst possible advice that you can get, as gratifying and as satisfying as it sounds. But the worst possible advice you can get is fake it until you make it. Because if you're faking it, guess what you are? You're a fake. And if you fake it and you get some of the accolades or some of the good stuff out of faking it, well, I guess then the question becomes, then why bother making it at all? You're already getting all the good stuff out of it, or most of the good stuff out of it, so why would you bother keep trying to make it? And it's trying to take something that you haven't actually earned. And if you get something you haven't actually earned, you can't possibly appreciate it. Unless, of course, you appreciate the person who's giving it to you. But even then, you're having to appreciate their sacrifice. Why does it matter so much that someone gives us a car? It's yeah, it's a cool thing to get. But if you understand how much time and work it took for the person to save up the money to buy the car for you, now you can really appreciate it. That's the difference between liking a gift and really appreciating and having gratitude for it. So you can't really appreciate the things that you don't earn yourself. And you don't have any reason to be confident. And that's why we'll mask it with fake bravado. We'll pretend like we have confidence. And then we'll even, like I said, ignore the things that point to the complete opposite, which is our failures, and say, well, I wasn't even trying anyway, or I didn't even care anyway. Or people will, like when someone says, I'll talk to people all the time, and they'll tell me, oh, high school, man, I bullshit my way through high school, man, I believe you. I believe you. And that indicates most of the time why people are where they are in life. Does that mean that people are abject failures? No, of course not. Of course not. But what does mean is you aren't what you could have been. You have no idea what you're capable of. You only know what you're capable of in terms of being a bullshitter. And if you think people don't know that you're a bullshitter, you've bullshitted the worst possible person you can, which is yourself. You tell me you don't know when people around you are full of shit? You're telling me, do you call out every single person in your life who's a bullshitter? And it's so weird that we'll think like, I know this person's full of shit. And I'm not tricking me, but you know what? I'm really good at it because nobody calls me out on it. It's like, that's what people think about you. And again, just because people think it about you doesn't mean it's true, of course, but it should give us pause to realize, like, wow, that's what I've accomplished in my life. And so what would you possibly have confidence in? People ask me all the time, how do you get confident? How do you because so often people don't believe in themselves, of course. And so what do you have to do in order to believe in yourself? You've got to get some wins under your belt. Little tiny things. It doesn't have to be, go start your own company and make $1 billion. That's eventually, man. If that's your goal, that's your eventual goal. First things first, man. Look at your life and just little tiny things like when you wake up in the morning, do you make your bed? Do you have a bed? Do you make the bed? Do you clean your room? Do you keep your room clean? Do you keep your I don't have my own room. Do you keep your backpack clean? Whatever little things in your life that you do have control over, do you take care of those little things? And if you don't take care of the little things, then of course you're not ready for the big things. It's like you'll see that so often people who are like the most loud in terms of their protesting and so loud in terms of their activism are usually the people who have the messiest personal lives. Their own personal lives are complete messes, man. They're dissatisfied with it. And so in that case, what's the thing that makes the most sense to them? Well, why is my life so tragic? Why is my life such a mess? Well, I can't blame myself because I wasn't even trying anyway. So I can't blame myself. So the best thing to do psychologically, I think, is to blame everybody else around me. And so then we go out and we want the whole world to change. We want the world to change the language it uses. We want the world to change how it approaches us. We want the world to make a whole bunch of exceptions so that we can fit into it, or actually rather, so the world can fit around us. But again, it goes back to that question, what have you done, though, to deserve such consideration? And most of us haven't done nearly enough to warrant such a thing. And even if you did get the world to change around you, it wouldn't be satisfying anyway. Because you'll find, like, you'll see people who will, like activists who will have their cause, and even if they get what they want, they don't stop. They continue in some other area because the cause itself wasn't the problem. The problem was a lack of accomplishments in self, a lack of security. Because if you don't feel like you can compete in the world, then of course at that point, I guess the best thing in our minds is to make the rest of the world not competitive with us, make it change the way it interacts with us. So the least justified a person is in claiming excellence in himself. What I've done is instead to claim excellence for my country. Look what my country's done. What have you done? Have you contributed to that? I like to look to the past. Look at what my race has done going back. Yeah, but have you done anything to contribute to that positively? Look at what my religion has done. And then, of course, ultimately, what my holy cause has done. Whatever your holy cause is not just a religious thing. It's whatever it is that you're kind of pushing and promoting, I guess, in life. And so, how do you get confidence? Well, you've got to get some wins. And if you don't think that you're capable of any wins, then of course it's harder to get them, and it's harder to appreciate them when you get them, and even to recognize them when you get them. Because if you feel like, well, I'm terrible at everything, And maybe you might actually have some success. It's hard to recognize the success because you're waiting for it to fail at some point. That would be like a pessimistic point of view. So you got to get some wins. If you're a person who, I don't know, if you admire people who, I don't know, run marathons or whatever, then what do? You go run a marathon. Do you just wake up on Saturday morning and go do it though? No, it takes effort, it takes work, it takes sacrifice. And we appreciate the things that we sacrifice for. Run a mile, try that. Try running a mile, do it a few times. After a few times, you'll realize that something that you didn't realize before, you can do it. But if you can't go the whole mile, well, then do a half a mile. Then work up to a mile. And then you work up to 5, then you work up to 10. And eventually you work up to 26. And then you can say that you're a person who does the things that you admire in others and accomplish in others. Then you have reason to claim excellence for yourself. But the reason that we claim excellence for our groups is largely because we seek safety. And so I belong to that group, and this group is great. And then we can look around and we don't feel so damn alone. But if you're a person who can stand on your own, then you're a really dangerous person because you don't need the approval of others. If you're going to belong to any group, no matter what group it is, you're going to have to compromise some things about yourself. If you're a Republican, but you're in favor of abortion, you're going to have to compromise that part about yourself. Because to be part of the Republican Party, you got to be against it. If you're a Democrat and you're against abortion, you're going to have to compromise that part of yourself to belong to that group. Any group that you're part of, you're going to have to compromise parts of yourself just to belong to it. But the person who can stand on their own as an individual without the need for support, that's a dangerous person because you don't need the support of others. That means you don't have to compromise yourself. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not. You don't have to fake it until you hopefully make it. You just are. And so, I'll leave it at that. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms.